If you've been scrolling through endless soundbar options, watching YouTube deep dives, reading spec sheets, and still feel stuck on which system actually makes sense for your living room, this review should clear that up. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few weeks setting up the JBL Bar 1300X in a medium-sized family room, swapping it in and out of a few different TV setups, and listening to both blockbuster movies and a handful of music playlists, so I can tell you what it does in the real world, not just what the brochure promises. First off, let's talk about the core question most buyers ask: will this actually upgrade my movie nights? The biggest draw of the 1300X is the detachable surround speakers. Most soundbars lock you into a fixed 2.1 or 5.1 configuration, which can feel cramped when you try to spread sound across a larger space. With JBL's design, you have two satellite speakers that snap onto the bar and a 12-inch wireless subwoofer that you can place anywhere in the room. In practice, I positioned the subwoofer near the front wall and the satellites on either side of the TV. The result was a noticeable sense of width and height. Dialogue stayed clear even during fast-paced action, and the overhead effects in a Dolby Atmos trailer really felt like they were coming from above you. For a family that watches a lot of superhero flicks and enjoys occasional gaming sessions, that extra sense of immersion is tangible. Now, the hesitation many people feel is whether they need that level of surround for a typical living room. If you mostly stream sitcoms, news, or just have the TV on as background noise, a simpler 2.1 bar could be sufficient and cheaper. The 1300X shines when you want a true cinematic experience, especially in rooms that are at least 1,215 feet across. In a cramped studio apartment, the 12-inch sub can dominate the low end, making bass feel a bit overwhelming, and the rear speakers may not have enough distance to create a clean surround field. So, if your space is tight, you might be better off with a more compact unit. Let's dig into the practical strengths that matter after the box is opened. The first is connectivity. JBL built Wi-Fi, AirPlay 2, Chromecast, and Alexa multi-room music right into the bar, which means you can stream Spotify, Apple Music, or even a YouTube playlist without a separate receiver. I set it up with my existing Wi-Fi network in under 10 minutes, and the transition between TV audio and a music session was seamless. The bar also supports both Dolby Atmos and DTS, so you won't be limited to one object-based format. In a side-by-side test with a competing soundbar that only offered Dolby Digital, the 1300X maintained clearer position cues during a game soundtrack that bounced around the room. The other standout is power. JBL rates the system at 1170 watts of output, and while you don't need that kind of headroom for casual listening, it translates into a confident volume swing without distortion. I cranked the volume up for a sports game where the crowd noise and commentary were competing, and the bar held up no clipping, and the dialogue remained intelligible. The detachable speakers also have their own small amplifiers, which means you can keep the bar's volume lower while still getting a robust surround effect. That helps with late-night viewing when you don't want to blast the whole house. On the flip side, there are a few practical weaknesses to be aware of. The remote control is a bit of a mixed bag. It's a fairly generic rectangular remote with many buttons, but the layout can feel unintuitive after the first few minutes. Switching between TV, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi sources requires pressing a source button multiple times, and there's no on-screen visual cue to confirm which mode you're in. If you're used to a streamlined single-press experience, this could be a minor irritation. Another consideration is the HDMI setup. The bar offers one HDMI ARC port, which works fine if your TV supports it, but there's no eARC or additional HDMI inputs. That means you'll need to keep your existing receiver or game console connected directly to the TV, and the bar will just pass the audio through. For most users this isn't a deal breaker, but if you want a single hub for all your devices, you'll still need a separate switch or receiver. Lastly, the price point. The JBL Bar 1300X sits in the premium tier of soundbars, reflecting its Atmos capabilities and the included subwoofer. In my calculations, the cost per watt and the amount of hardware you get are comparable to buying a modest AV receiver and a set of bookshelf speakers separately. If you're comfortable spending a bit more for a tidy, all-in-one solution that still delivers that Atmos feel, it's worth it. If you're on a tighter budget, you might consider a more basic 3.1 bar and add a separate sub later. Who should buy this? I'd say it's a solid match for anyone with a mid to large living space who regularly watches movies, streams,